welcome to the show. It's been it's been quite a long time since my last podcast. It's been well over a couple of years. Well, I don't know if it's been a couple of years. I think it was 2018 and it's now 2020. So yeah, it's been some time, and you know quite a lot has happened since the last podcast. There's lots of different things that I'd wanted to do. Whenever I announced episode one, I was talking about how I was going to start interviewing people. I was talking about how I was going to get people on and interview people that I call particle colliders, and that never happened. It's still in the back of my mind for something that I want to do, and it might happen, but at the moment, I've just decided it's time to start making these solo podcasts again, because one of the main reasons is that I find it very therapeutic. And I know everyone is probably laughing right now whenever I say that, but you know, mental health is more important than ever right now, particularly because it is Mental Health Awareness Week, and more than ever, it's important because of the global pandemic that we're in right now. So yeah, no, I just decided that it is finally time to start to record episode 2. So without further ado, my name's David Jackson Shaw, and you're listening to my podcast. So what have I been up to since the last episode? Well, the main thing that I think happened was I actually moved house, and we didn't move that far from where we were originally whenever I recorded episode 1, but the recording of episode 2 is now in a brand new house, and yeah, we've been living here for over a year now, and it's been great. One of the things I did whenever I got the house was I didn't get a new job. I decided to, so just about a month or two after I got the house, I decided to leave CRC and go back into self-employment. Lots of different reasons why. I really enjoyed my time at CRC, and I loved the work. Like, basically, we were building. For those of you who don't know, I was an email developer working in email marketing, and it was such an amazing company to work for, and amazing opportunities to work with literally millions of customers, and we would be sending emails every single day to those customers. So I would be designing emails, developing emails, working on automation, working on personalization, real sort of cutting edge marketing opportunities. And yeah, no, I loved it. I spent 3.5 years there, and met some awesome people along the way. So I wouldn't change it for the world. I think I'm going to go more into my own story as a designer in another episode, because I am going to try and do more of these solo podcasts. So I might just do an episode where it's really egotistical and it's just me telling you my sort of 30 years of history, because that's another thing that happened in the past year. I turned 30, and that was fun. We had a lovely trip to Donegal, and yeah, because whenever that happened, that was a year and a couple of months. Because I'm actually 31 now, which is mad, because I turned 31 in March there. It's now May, and we're in a global lockdown, if you didn't know already, which has been crazy. But other than moving house and starting self-employment, one of the things that I did, which I think is really beneficial, and I haven't done it in a couple of months now, but one of the things we did about a year ago was I started running a coder dojo with a guy called Matt Johnson in the Lisburn Library, and like I found that therapeutic to do in itself, because I remember like I ran a coder dojo in Farset Labs with Emma Foster um several years ago now, and I remember at that time like I didn't even have a lot of work on. I was self-employed, and I just I decided that I wanted, it was actually, so I here I'll tell you the story of what happened. I actually was up in Derry, and I wasn't I was graduate at this time, so I'd gone up for an event. I'd been I'd so let me rewind. So I'd applied for an event where you would pitch your businesses, and it was pretty mad event. Like basically, they'd given everyone a couple of grand. They'd given, like, not everyone, they'd given a selection of business owners virtual money to spend on entrepreneurs, and given entrepreneurs a stage. So like I had printed a load of material out, took a day off to go up to Derry to pitch my web design services to people with free money, and I spent the full day doing it, and not one person parted with their money. So like I had people after people come over to me and ask me what I was doing, and I was saying I've just launched a website business called Invisible Building. We are selling web design services. We are selling digital prototypes. We are selling anything that you want designed or built. We will do it for you. And there was people who wanted websites, but either they didn't like the long-haired hippie trying to be revolutionary, calling his business Invisible Building, but or I don't know, I got outpriced maybe. I can't remember even what I quoted it for anything, but I do know that I spent the whole day there and did not get a single customer out of it. So that was a fun experience, especially being back in Derry. And I remember just being, I was like soul destroyed. I remember being incredibly heartbroken. But the one good thing that came out of that was that I met this girl called Hannah Bryson, this person called Hannah Bryson, and she was up for Coder Dojo, and she was running a Coder Dojo in Belfast, and they had given her some free hardware. I think they awarded her some money for the Coder Dojo, and they'd awarded her a laptop. So it was something like that. But I remember like I was just having such a horrible afternoon because of literally pitching to all these people and getting like we were just pitching the same thing over and over again, and then not getting any sort of clients at the end of it was horrible. But I can't remember how I started chatting to her, but I started chatting to her anyway, and then I asked her if she needed help with anything, and she ended up, yeah, she needed like lifting stuff to the bus, and it turned out we were both getting the bus back from Derry to Belfast. So like I just ended up like carrying a lot of her stuff to the bus for her, and we talked pretty much the whole journey back from Derry. But the really interesting thing about her was that she was a member of the Baha'i faith, and she was telling me all about that, and I just found that whole story really interesting. But aside from being apart from the Baha'i faith and running the Coder Dojo, she had asked me if I would be a mentor on the Coder Dojo program, and I said yeah. I said why not? I'd love to do it. So from there, I joined the Coder Dojo and met Emma Foster, and me and Emma ran the Coder Dojo together for I think about 7 months or so. It was on and off, and then because of Christmas and stuff like that, but we ran it for a good while, and I found that, as I said, I found that whole experience really therapeutic, and just like just an awesome experience to be a part of, because you're helping these people learn how to code, helping them get into the web, and they're really quite young. And basically, if anyone hasn't been to a coder dojo before, the concept is that, you know, if you're over a certain age, you can come on your own, but if you are under a certain age, you need to come with your parent. So that there would be the parent, the kid, myself, basically the parent, the kid, and a mentor. And he had a couple of mentors, all the better. Me and Emma taught web design, but it was the first time that I ever actually spec'd out like a web design course, and I just loved. I think I still have the project in Trello, but I like spec'd out the web design course, and I like learnt about how to teach basic HTML, how to teach basic CSS, how to teach them about content management systems and JavaScript, how to actually teach them about how the web started and what the web is, and that was really fun. But after doing that for a couple of months, it gave me the confidence to be a teacher. And I was also part of this group called, if anyone remembers the app Path, because I had a rough experience working at this design agency called Mammoth, and one of the things that came out of Mammoth was I met this guy called Gareth Hammond, and Gareth invited me to his Path group, and inside the Path group was actually all of these really prolific designers and business owners and product managers and copywriters, and just as a community of all these really high profile people that really there was no sort of need for me to be in there, other than Gareth was really sound and asked me to be in it. And yeah, I'm really grateful for that at the time, because he introduced me to a lot of people. And I think I sort of at the time questioned a lot of the stuff that he was doing, but I think now I am very grateful for everything that he did in that respect. So Gareth, on the very 1% chance that you're listening to this, thank you very much, sir. But anyway, so one of the guys that was on in that Path group was a man called Ian Sayers, and Ian runs a company called Giant Training. And what Ian did was Ian asked me if I would run a training course on teaching web design to graphic designers. And I thought, yeah, why not? I'll do it. I can't remember what I get paid again, but it was good money. And I said to him, yeah, sure, no problem. So basically, I ran a very similar course, or basically I took my Coder Dojo notes and turned that into a 3-day course, and taught the bare bones basics of the web to these graphic designers. For those of you who don't really know the difference between like a designer and a web designer, one of the main things is graphic designers would be trained in Photoshop. They would like design the layout in Photoshop or Illustrator, and then they would then pass that design onto a front-end developer that would then build it. So I spent the couple of days teaching them, and to the best of my ability, the process of understanding the web. And I tried to be a bit different and not just strictly teach them, how to fire up a WordPress, but what I taught them was how to actually understand, to think like a web. So I went a bit more in depth and did a bit of training, and hopefully they all came out of it with a bit better understanding. And I think it went well enough, because a month or two later, Ian actually asked me back again to work for him on a project with an all Irish speaking school called Caliste de Fursta. And Ian, he didn't actually. It's always like a funny story I tell people, because Ian didn't tell me that it was an all Irish speaking school up until the moment I was walking through the door. And I probably, like, to be honest, I'd searched it on Google, so I didn't know that it was an all Irish speaking school. But he hadn't confirmed to me that I had to sort of speak Irish, and he possibly didn't know either. But it's a funny story. I tell people that I taught web design in an all Irish speaking school where the kids are only supposed to speak Irish. But I got away and I learned how to be a Sarlacc, which is a superhero. But that's one thing that I'm talking about where I started doing that Coder Dojo and all these opportunities came my way. So I've always been a big fan of karma, and I think karma is a real thing. So whenever I decided that I was going to go back into self-employment, I had seen that Matt was looking for someone to help him out with the Coder Dojo, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that. So I decided I'm going to go back, help Matt out with the Coder Dojo, and we did that for, I think we did it for a full year, and we ended it. We haven't ended it, but we stopped at Christmas there, in 2019, and then just with COVID, I don't think it's been possible to go back and do another one. I think Matt has ran a few virtual ones, but I'm not sure of the current status of that. But I have been working with Matt on other stuff because as of COVID, pretty much, as of lockdown, I started working with Raise Ventures, which is a business accelerator, a privately run business accelerator program based in Belfast city centre. And I had seen like a marketing job going, a part-time marketing job, and I thought, yeah, I actually would really enjoy that. So I didn't say to Matt about it. I just applied for it, did an interview with the other co-founders, and it's a funny story because I ended up just starting that job just as lockdown came down, and I've been working there for the past few months and absolutely loving it. But I will probably talk about Raise again in another podcast. But something else that I've been doing during in lockdown was I launched my first work in progress web app. So lockdown came down. I'm gonna pause. And we're back. So I actually just watched back those last 20 minutes there that you're listening to right now with no cuts. And I think this is a good enough podcast to go out. So if you've listened to this far ahead, that this is just a wee commercial break that happened, and I will just carry on with the story. So just to catch you up, in case you've skipped to this part, what I covered so far was just that I've changed a lot since I made my first episode. I bought a house. I didn't mention that I got a dog. I got a wee dachshund dog. He's called Selkie, and he's incredible. I started talking about leaving CRC. I started talking about how I started a Coder Dojo with Matt Johnson. I started talking about how I started doing this marketing job with Raise Ventures, and then I mentioned that I had done that during lockdown. And something else to talk about that happened during lockdown was that I started writing this blog post called it was literally after my interview with Raise. I'd gone to speak to the founders, and I remember Jenny said to me in the office at the time, she was like, oh well, you might be working remote if you get the job because with COVID. I remember sort of looking at her and going, I hadn't even really processed that COVID might be that big a deal. And that day I had seen it was an eerie feeling about the town. Like it was like wet and rainy, and I was in I started working with a design agency called Paper Jam as well. So I was in the Paper Jam offices that afternoon as well, and I just remember there was something very odd about everything, and I'd sort of I just took everything in my stride and carried on. But I got home and I had a couple of other appointments planned that week, and I decided that no, I'm going to lead by example, and I'm going to actually start booking things remote, because there's a guy who I get a lot of influence of, and if you're listening to this through the maker community, you will know a guy called Peter Levels, and he talks a lot about automation. He talks a lot about automating your life. He talks a lot about going. His business is called, it's called Nomad List. So it's for people that are digital nomads. It's for people that work remote. He also has a remote job working board. So his way of thinking is very like fast forward to the situation we're in right now in lockdown. So I remember looking at him and I was talking about the type of stuff that he did, and I was quoting him in the blog post. So I was writing this blog post about remote work, and I was sort of framing it around tribes. So this is sort of connected to what I was talking about, having going on the Coder Dojo and having the path group and having the people around you that think get you work. One of the important things to do is to have tribes, virtual tribes, and this is completely inspired by a guy called Fajar Siddiq as well, because he says has a podcast episode called Know Your Vibes and Find Your Tribes, or something like that. I'll actually look it up now quickly. Sorry, I looked it up there. His podcast is titled Find Your Tribe for the Good Vibe, and that is it's completely true, because one of the one thing that I didn't mention that's changed over the past year that I brought into my life is that I did mention it, I think, but I've been hanging out a lot with the MakerLog community, and the MakerLog is it's a website where you can log in and sort of track your tasks. And for a long time, I've had this vision where that like productivity is going to be the future of web. Basically, I'm aware that like the mass majority of people in this world are the consumers, and there's been this thing over the past couple of years really where there's like the consumers and the creators. The creators are the ones putting out the content, the consumers are the ones just consuming everything on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, or whatever. MakerLog is an example of a website where you're sticking your fingers up at the system and saying, I'm not gonna absorb your content, I'm actually gonna create content. And not only am I going to create content, but I am gonna create content that shows productivity. I'm gonna make lists and I'm gonna smash those lists and I'm gonna ship product. And it's just a really, really cool productivity focused atmosphere to be about. And I'm 100% convinced that without doubt, that is the future of the next step of the web. A lot of the next step of the web I think is going to be audio based, but I think the next huge step is going to be on productivity, because we can build these apps that are productivity focused, and rather than being consumers, we're actually creating and building stuff and being productive. And without doubt, that's the future. I've talked enough about that being the future, so I'm going to carry on to my next point. But the whole point is that I've been a member of this MakerLog now for I guess a year or so. I don't know, but it's only I sort of dip in and out of like actually logging tasks. But one of the main benefits I find is just being part of that positive community and having people that you can ask questions to. And I get granted, like, people are busy, so they don't always get back to you with the answers. But just being able to know that there's people like you that are working on stuff, that are designers, developers, marketers, podcasters, doing their own thing. They are your tribe. So like I think it's really important in internet culture to find tribes like that, and to find people that you can connect to on that level. Like this podcast has gone off on a big tangent, but I think that again, this is something else that needs to be an episode on its own, because what I wanted to talk about really was like, I'm part of this group called MakerLog, It's all about shipping product, and I have had all these product ideas for years and years, and I've never really shipped anything. Like I've done websites for other people, but whenever it comes to doing my own thing, I have this like panic attack where I don't think it's going to be good enough, or I know it's not going to be good enough, or that I look at the design and I think it looks terrible. So I'm like, why am I doing that? And then I over design it, and then under design it, and then over design it, and then it's just a mess. So I decided, I was writing this blog post on remote work, and I realized um, that aside from remote work being the next thing that people are going to be doing, all these people are going to be working from home, and they're going to need to get food. So they're going to need to know who's delivering what and where and how. So I decided there and then that I'm going to launch a website called yo.delivery, and I thought of the brand name and everything by itself. But the first thing was I designed it. I'm not going to go through the whole process, but basically I set up an error table, a Google spreadsheet, posted it on Facebook, started collecting data. Then I took that data, turned it into a website, and now it's a semi-functional web app. And that whole experience was great fun. And what it was just getting an idea, designing it on paper, turning it into code, sharing it online, and starting to get feedback. And I got